All right. Well, first and foremost, just wanted to get an opportunity to get these new Gators in front of you guys, get an opportunity to kind of find out who they are and what they're all about. But first and foremost, I want to say how excited I am that they chose to join this family and be part of something great. And in each one of their cases, as we went through the process and we looking for the right fit, I think the important thing is making sure you got the right fit for the organization and the guys within that organization, and that's something that we've hit a home run on. These are all guys that, as you do the background check, are not independent contractors, but actually really care about the players and care about them, developing them not only as players, but as young men. And that's something that, to a coach, as you talk to the guys and you do the background check and you do the things and call coaches that they've worked with and that kind of thing, that's something that really resonated with us as these guys' name came up. And I'm really excited to introduce these guys and kind of take some questions before they get up here. But obviously Corey Bell is coaching our defensive backs. Long-time Floridian, spent some time coaching in high school down there, obviously was comfortable with Coach Shannon, worked with him on that staff, been in the swamp as he coached for FAU, and you know, I think he was a youngster when he was a head coach. Weren't you a youngster? About 25 years old or so when you were a head coach at Edison. So we're excited to have him working with the defensive backs. Offensive line-wise, Brad Davis. Brad is one of those guys that, as we were looking for that energy and that piece with that offensive line, he's a name that kept coming up. And he's a guy that played for Coach Stoops at Oklahoma. Guy that's been in the swamp a couple times with some visiting teams in East Carolina and North Texas. Was with a good friend of mine in coaching, in God speaks so highly of him, in Ruffin McNeil, who I've got as much respect for as anybody in this profession. And, it was interesting, the thing that tipped it kind of over there, guy that I played with, guy I coached a little bit when I was at Eastern Washington. He was at Portland State for 5 years, was part of Barney Ball out there. And, it's interesting. As you grow up in this profession, there's something that's great about being at some of those places that these guys have been, but that isn't necessarily just the highest level of ball, but learning how to do a little bit of everything and affecting young men's lives. So we're excited to have Brad and Jaywan Sider, who I'm finally glad to get here. Tried to hire him the first time and finally got him back and got him where he belongs. Another guy that obviously has a lot of ties with former Gators. His knowledge of the game and what he can bring to the running back position is something that is well thought of throughout the country. And again, another guy that cares about the players. And I've seen so far the interaction that they've had with our team, with our coaching staff, with the people in the building. They're natural fits, man. They got smiles on their face. They come in with energy. And that's really what it's all about, is affecting the people around you in a positive way. And I think you'll see that as you get an opportunity to visit with these guys. So I'll take a few questions before they get up here and let you guys take some shots at them. How's that?
Gary.
Hey, Coach. Especially in relation to the offensive line and the running game for spring, and I know it's not a specific spring question, but what is their charge?
No, wait. Was that a disclaimer? Is that what that is? Okay, go ahead.
What is their charge? What is their charge from you? What have you told them that they're going to be the priorities from them and those position groups?
Sure. I think the biggest thing is, first and foremost, being physical and playing with an energy and taking a step forward, not backwards at times. And that's really one of the biggest things that we do. And matching up the footworks, both have been in successful programs, not only in throwing the ball, but obviously running the football as well. So it'll be fun to see them mesh together, especially as you. So the one thing you got to be able to do is your offensive line footwork has to match your running back footwork. Some people, think that they're two independent spots, but, this is something that seeing those guys work together is something we need to get better at.
Ryan over here to the right.
Could you just discuss the scope of the search, how many names you looked at, and
Oh,
how
geez.
much time went into all this?
Well, first and foremost, it's overwhelming and yet a little bit humbling as far as the interest that those spots garnered throughout the country from all levels of ball. Yet these were all names that kind of kept coming back, especially for the fit. And I think the important thing is understanding the fit in what is right for this program in this organization in this given time. So it was long, it was arduous. That's a good word. Like that? I'm sorry, kind of dumb that down a little bit for you. I won't curse at you. But it was one that needed to be really highly looked into and covered in all respects, because you only get this chance to get this one right. And that's why it probably the time, number one, but number two, making sure it was right, not only for us, but for them as well.
Thomas.
Can you speak a little bit about Tim Skipper moving back to the defensive side of the ball, where he probably has actually a little bit more experience playing?
Yeah, Skip's one of those guys, jack of all trades. Obviously, when I was first with Skip, he was our running back coach when I was at Fresno. He's been a defensive coordinator. He's been a linebacker coach for most of his time, obviously playing linebacker. A guy that can wear a lot of different hats and has, and yet his comfort area, I think, and I know, is how he brings and what he brings to the linebackers. And that was one of those things as Coach Shannon, one of the first things that he wanted to do. And I'm all for it and excited for Skip to get back over there where he's most comfortable.
Zach over here to the right.
You mentioned trying to hire Coach Sider the first time around. How sensitive, obviously, did you have to be to his son's situation? Yeah. And how nice is it for him to come now with his son healthy and that behind them?
Well, obviously, knowing that it is family first, and, that's how we run this program. So I totally understood that first time around more than most people do, having gone through something, with my own son. So I know as I told him, when we got that next opportunity, I'm not going to stop calling you. And I'm glad he chose to come.
And obviously with these hires, you wanted to bolster your recruiting as well, just the personalities of all three of these guys and what they can bring on that front. How great do you think that can be? Well,
time will tell, but obviously the recruiting is a piece of it, as the coaching piece is. And, first and foremost, how do they associate and how do they affect the young men that they coach? What can they bring to the table from the X's and O piece? And these guys are all really come with great recommendation as coaches. And obviously they're comfortable in the areas that they need to recruit, where they can be productive to keep moving our recruiting stuff forward. And you know what? It's like I said, they're all guys that for the right fit. And the right fit for them was the Gators.
Edgar.
Yeah, Coach, the standard's been real high in the secondary for a while here.
Yeah.
What was kind of Corey's selling point there, and to kind of maintain and kind of continue to build the depth going forward?
It's funny you mentioned that, because I actually busted his chops a little bit today about the fact that I think there's a bunch of first or second rounders that have come out of here at that position. So he's got a heck of a tradition to uphold, and yet got some good guys to work with, and I think his comfort level and Coach Shannon's comfort level, with each other and how in what they're teaching and that fits to our defense. I know I'm excited to see him work, and I know our guys have been excited just being around him. So, you know what? You're right. In fact, you might want to ask him about that. That's pretty good. That'd be a good way to ease him in. All right. Oh.
Go, Ryan.
What will Coach Shannon coach position-wise?
He's going to coach the defense.
Will he work with any-
He'll coach with both in the secondary and with the backers, but obviously the coordination from front to back is something that it starts with. So like Coach Collins, he'll kind of be in that same role.
Any final questions for Coach?
All right, guys.
We're going to do a real quick photo op with these guys all up here with Coach at the same time, then we'll roll guys up here individually.
You kidding me? Now, here's the deal, guys. Go easy on them. All right? Yeah, and then we'll be able to talk all next week. Good. Well, you guys enjoy it. All right? Okay. Good luck to you up there. You already know your first question. All right.
Hey guys, if you just want to state your name first, so that way he can kind of get to know you guys as you ask a question. But we'll get your mics and pass them around. All right? Questions? Start with Gary on
Questions?
the left.
Hey, Coach Gary Smits from the Florida Times Union of Jacksonville.
How you doing, Gary?
Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Speaking to that tradition, the first rounders that this program has produced, especially in the last couple of years, and
Right.
The challenge you're going to have in the spring to replacing 3 guys who may join that list.
All right. I mean, absolutely, rightfully so. But it's a thing for the fans in terms of, tradition and all that. With Tez and Quincy, those are guys that can't obviously be replaced. But you have some young guys you got to develop, and Chauncey and all those guys. So it's about, developing the young guys and putting them in position to be successful.
Nick on the right.
Nick Delatorre,
Hey,
head
Nick.
coach. How much have you been able to familiarize yourself with the roster and what you have as far as depth and players?
Well, I've done some research. I've looked at film, met with the guys, of course, had the chance to, to speak with them up close, one-on-one. So in that respect, it's been good. Now it's just about developing some depth. You have some guys on the roster that probably haven't played much, but it's my job to develop them, make sure they're ready to go.
And when did Coach McElwain first get in touch with you? What was that conversation, and how quick did that process move?
I've been knowing Mac for a while. It's maybe a week ago or so. I was at home. He gave me a call. It happened rather fast. A situation where, I asked him to reach out to Coach Strong because I was working for Coach Strong at the time. Once they had the conversation, then Mac and I had a second conversation. So, it happened within 72 hours, actually.
Zach on the right.
When you're recruiting defensive backs, specifically at corner, do you have a ideal frame that you look for? Do you like the taller cornerbacks, or you go for the physical guys, or athletic, or is it the best available when you're out there recruiting?
Well, actually, all in one. All those things you mentioned, I'll take them. So you like some guys with some length, guys that's able to bend, and of course, vertical speed. You want that as well, but also them being able to learn what you're teaching is critical. So you got to get guys on the board. See if they're able to process.
And what are your philosophies or things that you kind of favorite as far as man and zone coverage?
Well, it all depends on the schematics, in terms of what the defense, what the coordinator is running, whether it's off-man press, I can teach it all, so it's all predicated on, what the defensive coordinator wants to do.
Edgar on the left.
You do walk into a situation with some veteran guys, though. Could you speak on just a few of the guys in particular, Marcel and Duke, and what you saw from Chauncey in the Outback Bowl?
Right. Of course, those guys have some, game experience. So little things we just have to tweak, but for the most part, you know, just putting those guys out there and just letting them, you know, play within the scheme of things, you know, and then them helping the young guys come along. So, you know, in that respect, it's a great situation, you know, that you have some guys with game experience, but you also have some guys that don't have game experience that you got to bring along. So it's just, you know, catch-22 in terms of that situation, but, you know, it'll work itself out as we move forward.
What kind of made you decide to come to Florida? You were just starting to get settled in at a new job. What was behind the decision?
Well, you know, just the opportunity, you know, to be back in the SEC. You know, played in the SEC and the opportunity to be back in the SEC. And, you know, long story short, you know, when Coach Strong was here, you know, his first stint, he recruited me, you know, and I actually committed here. So, you know, and that was a long time ago, of course, but I always wanted to be a Gator. Now I had the opportunity to be that, so took advantage of it.
How did the conversation with Charlie go? I assume he was supportive?
Very supportive in terms of that. You know, the one thing he knew, I would do things the right way. You know, I wouldn't have a conversation without him and Mac having a conversation first. So I let those two speak, and then, but Charlie was very supportive in the move.
Ryan and then Robbie.
Just building off that, what was these last couple months like for you? Just thinking you're now settled into a new place, now you're changing again, just personally.
But yeah, like I said, it happened fast. You know, you're going back and forth. You're recruiting at one institution. Now all of a sudden you got to make a turn. But this is just about adjustments. Just like I told the kids, you know, some of these guys are going into their fourth defensive back coach. So it's about adaptation and embracing the challenge and embracing the situation. So it's the same thing with me. I just embraced it, you know.
Do you recall where you were when McElwain called you and just what that moment and scene was like?
I was walking downstairs at home. I was coming downstairs. My phone rang. Did you fall? So, no, I didn't. But I took the call.
Were you surprised? What was your reaction?
You know, surprised, yeah. Surprised by the call at the time. It was very early in the morning, so surprised by that, yeah. But
how well do you know Coach Shannon, and how much are you looking forward to working with him?
repeat that again.
Coach Shannon, how well do you know him? How much do you look forward to working with him?
We've been friends for a very long time, of course, and I work for him. Looking forward to getting back with him and working with him. Been waiting on this opportunity for a while, and it's finally came. So, very looking forward to that.
We'll do two more guys, Zach and then Nick.
How'd you end up committed to Florida, and then what brought you to South Carolina?
Actually, when that happened, I think right after, Galen Hall was the head guy, and he was released. So, of course, when those type of things happen, the recruiting process goes, different directions. So I end up, going to South Carolina.
And then Uncle Luke says that he's been begging Miami to hire you for years, and now that you're here, he's afraid that Miami won't get any South Florida recruits. Why do you think he feels that way, and why do you have the reputation that you do down there?
I don't know, maybe because I'm a good guy. I would think, it's just due diligence, just doing what I need to do. People respect you and the things you do, and they know you're truly invested in the kids and helping them grow towards maturation. So that's a big part of it. And of course, Luke is a close friend of mine, but when you're doing things the right way, people respect that, and you're doing it at a high level and doing it consistently. So those things are probably the reason why he said what he said.
Last one, Nick.
And then you also get to have reunite with Chris Rumpf. What was your relationship like with him when you guys were at South Carolina, and does that kind of just pick up where it left off when you get here?
Absolutely, picks up where it left off. We was great friends then. We've stayed in touch over the years, and now you get the opportunity to actually, work together. So it's been fun. We spent a lot of times laughing then, and now we're on the other side of it where we get to laugh and, be in the business together. So it's a great situation for us.
Thanks, guys. We'll bring up Coach Davis.
Thank you.
Was he called the rump shaker back then?
Absolutely.
guys got Coach Davis now. Cameron's in the back good.
Howdy.
All right, we'll open up the questions. If you want to state your name again, just so he can create a relationship. We'll start with Ryan up front.
Ryan Young, SEC Country. Just what's your take on what you're inheriting, the guys you have, and kind of where that position group needs to go this next season?
Sure. I've tried to come in with really no preconceived notions. I watched film of these guys from last season. The biggest thing right now for me is to get these guys to buy into me. It's not really what I think of them. It's what they think of me. For me to get the best out of these guys, they got to 100% believe in me, buy into me, and really understand what my expectations are for them. So, right now, my biggest challenge right now has been getting as close to my players as I possibly can. So I've been investing time within the parameters that are allowed, texting, calling, having them come by the office, position meetings, talking to them after workouts, things of that nature, really trying to get those guys to understand my passion for their success. That's the biggest thing right now for me.
And then after the bowl game, Coach McElwain said he really wanted the new level of physicality and aggressiveness from that group. What directives did he give you about what he's looking for there?
Well, I think he was just about that clear as you understood it as well. So, that's a great challenge. I mean, because the reality of it is, when it comes to being physical or being a quote unquote tough football player, all those things, 99% of us want to. And, my expectations for my players are one thing, but they have to also match those expectations. So the biggest thing right now is getting those guys to see the game the way I see it, to understand their purpose, and more importantly, to understand the privilege they have of being a Florida Gator. So, those are the daily reminders that they get from me, okay, is to not waste an opportunity, to not take this opportunity lightly, and to go out there and really utilize your talent. I tell the analogy I use to the guys the last few days, it's pointless to have a Lamborghini with a bad transmission. It's worthless. So we got a bunch of talented, physical, athletic football players that really haven't maximized their potential. My job and why I'm here is to get the best out of them every day.
Edgar on the left.
What kind of changes in the off season conditioning and things do you plan to make to facilitate that?
Well, the off-season stuff, it is a lot of that, the training, the science of changing their bodies, that's a different realm. For me, it's more of a psychological approach to the game. Number one, I want to educate them on football and teach them the broad perspective, to really learn more than just, quote unquote, their assignment, or to see the game from a box perspective. I want them to see the big picture, see the field, understand scheme, understand plays and why they work, but more importantly, understand your role on that given play. So our position meetings, our time that we've spent together so far has been really slowing it down. Start with the basics. Why is it important to get in a great three-point stance? Okay, inside zone, a play everybody in America runs. Why does this play work? What's your respective role on this play, and how can we be more efficient, in executing our assignments on that given play? So, I mean, within the parameters of conditioning, training, all that stuff, that's beyond my realm.
And also, has anyone stood out to you early on as kind of a leader of this unit?
You know what? I've really been investing a lot of time in Martez. I think he has limitless potential. The bottom line is, for me, I don't ask my players to lead by example. There's no such thing. I ask my guys to set the example and hold others accountable to the standard. You guys follow me on that? So that has been my conversation with Martez. Yes, you're a tremendous football player. Yes, we see a big future for you in football. But the bottom line is you want to make sure that you leave this place better than when you got it, whenever your time is up here. So he has really expressed a strong desire to find ways to improve his game. I think he's a kid that falls in the category of loves football. And so I've been very thrilled to work with him every day. And so he really, I think, has a ton of potential to be a leader and to be a guy that makes other guys around him better.
Zach up front.
Hi, Brad Zach, Already SEC Country. When we hear Jim McElwain say he wants his linemen to be more physical, and you think about it from a coaching aspect, you think of a guy that's come in can maybe be like a rah-rah guy and kind of get guys fired up, but at the same time, sure, you want to have a point where you can have constructive criticism and also lift guys up. How do you strike that balance as a coach and kind of describe your coaching style?
Sure. Well, the biggest thing for me is I'm a hard coach to play for. I'm very, and I don't say that in terms of bragging or that kind of stuff. I have a process, and I believe in that process, and I think it works. The first thing is they have to know how much I care about them. They have to know that their success is the most important thing to me, and not just in football. Their success in their personal lives, in their classroom. I tell them that them building their brand. What do they want people to say about them when they leave here? Those are things that never lose or take second place to football, so to speak. So from there, once I've captivated their attention and they understand how much I care about them, they will allow me to push them harder. They will allow me to go out there and challenge them. They will go out there and allow me to chastise them and coach them hard. Okay, our position is different in a lot of ways. When we don't execute an assignment, when we have poor technique, when we don't play hard, bad things happen. I mean, catastrophic things can happen to other players, not necessarily just a bad play, so to speak. So we have a little bit of added pressure and added incentives to go out and perform well. So, to me, we talk about being physical and being tough. It's not so much about rah-rah. To me, it's about a mindset. And that's where I'm trying to really, really pierce these guys right now and really alter their mindset and really making them understand how much harder you can go, how much more of yourself you can give. The things that some people think go unnoticed as it pertains to effort, making them understand that those things never go unnoticed by me. So teaching them great work habits that we anticipate will translate over to the field on game day. So, day one spring ball is, my expectation is to show them the standard. And if they don't meet the standard, there'll be consequences for not meeting the standard. So, and then every day just enhancing it and making it better.
And then with your time at Oklahoma, there's obviously a lot of players that have played at a high level, competed, but not everyone can carry that over into coaching. How have you been able to do that?
Well, he's obviously looking at me. First of all, I'll stand up at this podium, and most of y'all are like, "This guy played at Oklahoma." I'm a little short guy that probably wasn't good enough, and so what I had to do is I had to overachieve. Does that make sense? So I had to learn to give more of myself. I had to learn to be more selfless. I had to learn to study more. I had to learn that I didn't have the leeway to make some of the mistakes that the more talented guys did. Does that make sense? So, those lessons that I learned from Coach Stoops and his staff, my position coaches, those things have resonated with me throughout my life. This opportunity that I have right here, there's no leeway to come here and be average. Coach Mack didn't bring me here to be average or to, try to figure it out on the fly. I know what the expectations of Gator fans are. I have to be great at my job. So there's not been a day that I've been here or a day that I'm going to be here that I'm going to take being here lightly. So I expect the same from my players as well.
Thomas.
You kind of led me into this next question nicely, talking about the expectations here and what Jim McElwain expects. He talked a little bit about the crossover between a guy at Portland State and Eastern Washington. I'm assuming that was Bruce Barnum.
That's right, yeah.
How much did you talk to him about McElwain and kind of getting a feel for him, or did you at all?
I did, absolutely. Barney's a good friend of mine. He's a mentor. He's a guy I trust. And so obviously, Coach Mack and he had a pre-existing relationship. And, Coach Barnum is an unbelievable guy. I mean, he's taught me so much about the game. And X's and O's being one part of it, but more so, he's probably a guy that I've seen in my coaching career that's probably found a way to get more out of his players than maybe any coach I've ever been around, to be honest with you. And even more so than that, kids that may marginally love football or love what football brings, he found a way to bring all those guys together and pull the rope in the same direction. So Coach Barnum was a big part of this deal. He was. I know Coach Mack trusts him. And he was a big part of me being here, honestly. So I owe him a lot.
Did you know McElwain at all before that, or was this kind of a new
thing? We had several mutual acquaintances, but professionally, no, I had never met Coach Mack. No, I had not.
So what are your first impressions of him when this process begins and you start to meet him?
Sure. Well, number one, I think we embody some of the same values, which is family. That's huge for me. I felt like I left a great family at North Texas, but I walked into another great family. So I think he's thorough. I think he's professional. I think he offers me the opportunity as a coach to learn and grow, which are things that I strongly desire to do. So he gives me, a new perspective and a new set of challenges to come here and really try to become great at my job.
Two more guys. Ryan.
What kind of opportunities is this for you personally, and going back to last fall, you're in the stadium with North Texas. Could you have imagined a year later you're going to be on the sidelines for an SEC team in the Swamp?
No, and no, absolutely not. You know, and the reality of it is for me, you know, I've never been one of these career climbing guys that, you know, that's constantly trying to get to the next step. Or, you know, for me, I've let God order every step that I've taken. I believe in walking by faith, not by sight. And so for me, you know, my career has progressed or taken off, so to speak, because of the values that I embody. You know, I believe in my job as a football coach, first and foremost, is to be a servant. It's not about me, not about my ego, not about walking around and saying, hey, I'm an SEC O-line coach. It has never been and never will be about that for me. My job is to be a servant to the players that are here right now. I'm a vehicle to their success. Their job is to utilize me to help them enhance every aspect of their lives. So, you know, for me being here, you know, I've been fortunate. The places I've gone, I've worked my butt off, tried to do a great job, and fortunately, some of the people Coach Mack trusts have expressed that to him as well. So, yeah, in a million years did I expect to be here? Absolutely not. But am I fired up and thrilled? Heck yeah, it's the highlight of my coaching career. 10 years ago to the date, I was stapling papers, fixing coffee, getting cars washed, sleeping in my office, typing up scouting reports, breaking down film. You know, it's amazing. It truly is.
What was your reaction when he called, and where were you? What was the scene?
I was getting my teeth cleaned at the dentist's office. After signing day, that's typically when coaches have a chance to actually, you know, take care of their, you know, their personal hygiene, perhaps get a physical, check your cholesterol, things that, you know, look at all the weight you put on during recruiting, all that kind of stuff. So I was getting my teeth cleaned, and you know, I was very fortunate. My dentist was very understanding.
Last one, Nick.
Especially Nick Del Torre, Gator Country, especially at your position, how hard is it recruiting, and how much of a projection kind of has to go into an offensive lineman?
Well, you know, recruiting is, you know, I don't understand the label of being a great recruiter or not great recruiter. The bottom line is, to me, when it comes to recruiting football players, number one, they have to embody a certain skill set that you find appealing. And for me, you know, we want lengthy guys with range that can bend well and move well in space, okay? They have great footwork. So once you identify those things, then there becomes a whole new set of parameters, okay? Well, number one, how tough is he, okay? How intelligent is he? How well will he learn? Will this kid come here under my guidance and be a kid that flourishes and becomes a player that helps us win championships, or will he be a washout? Will he be a 4 or 5-star kid we never hear from again, which happens all over the country, okay? So for me, my model, what I believe in, is really just diving into kids' lives and getting to know so much about them, their parents, where they come from, their background, their high school coaches, who are their influencers, you know, what motivates a kid, what coaching strategies will I have to implement when that kid gets here so that he can come and use this program as a platform for his success. So that's been my model. Is it going to be a lot easier with the Gator head on my shirt when I walk into school? Yes. Heck yes. Okay. But at the same time, the kids that we want and anticipate landing here are going to be national recruits that we're going to work our butts off to land here. So, you know, it's a daily deal. It takes due diligence, like Coach said. It's something that you never take time off from doing. So I anticipate that we're going to get the right ones here. That's more important to me than stars. We're going to get the right ones, the guys that embody the values that Coach Mack has set this program. We'll win a lot of games with those guys.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you. Pardon me? I've been cavity-free since like the 4th grade, just so you know.
All right, guys, got Coach Sider now.
It's here.
Who wants the first question? Start with Zach on the right.
I'm telling you, man. Set the bar too high for me, Brad.
Coach, how does it feel, Zach Albaverdi, SEC Country, how does it feel to be here after seems like this is something that's always been maybe meant to be for you?
It feels surreal. You know, I've been fortunate in my career to climb as fast as I have. But just going back from high school, you know, I'm like Corey. I was a guy who was recruited by Florida when Spurrier was here with Charlie Strong, who was on his way to Notre Dame. I still remember it's like yesterday. because my high school was a big Florida Gator school. You know, Fred Taylor, Riedel Anthony, Johnny Rutledge, the Louis Oliver of the world, the Jimmy Spencer. So as a kid, you grew up watching Florida. You know what I mean? You always had affinity for this university. You know, fortunate for me, you know, I had other plans, you know. So I, you know, went to West Virginia, panned out for me under those things, and had a chance to go back there and coach, and, you know, and had an opportunity to come here before on the MAC, you know, when he first got the job. But I had a situation with my son that was more important at the time, you know, because I was at a great spot too, you know what I'm saying? So it had to be right, you know, and it got me a chance over these last couple of years, got to know Mac and his staff and what the expectation was and what the plan going forward for me to make this leap of faith. And then the thing that made it, you know, okay to come is the way they kept after me. They kept recruiting me, you know, with the guys on the staff. And then I felt like the time was right to come now and be a part of this great university.
You talked about the first time Mac went after you. I'm sure you were excited and maybe even flattered by the offer, but your son's situation took precedence. Can you just talk about what that whole process was like, the difficulty, but also him beating it?
No question. I mean, first of all, with Florida, you know, this one of them university that you don't get these opportunities in life, you know, to have an opportunity to work at Florida. You know, that's the standard and the prestige of this university. So, you know, saying no at that time was tough, you know, but my son was the most important thing in my life at that time. You know, when you learn your son diagnosed with cancer, I mean, I've never been around it. I never, you know, you hear about it until you actually have somebody that's close to you get affected. It changes you. And so my priority was being a dad, and nothing else mattered at that time. And then, you know, he understood that. I mean, they didn't stop trying. You know, they went a week long. Hey, you sure? You sure? I'm like, yes, coach, because we got this hospital. I said, I'm telling you, they made it hard to say no the first time. You know, but I had two little girls I had to think about too. So you can't just uproot your family, even though, you know, this hospital may be better here than there, quote unquote. So, you know, it was just an opportunity that I felt at the time I made the right decision. And I think Mac understood that, because if he didn't, I wouldn't be standing here right now. So I think it was a mutual deal where he respect me as a family man. And that's why I work for a guy. You know, I don't want to work for a person who's not a family man, because so much time we get talking about football, but it's bigger than just football. You know, and I tell my players past and I play my players present, you know, the game is only going to be played for 4 quarters. In 4 years, it's over with. But that relationship got to carry on beyond that if it's done right. And I believe in that, and I think that's part of having a strong family bond, because it ain't just my kids, it's the kids I'm affecting that I'm coaching.
And lastly, how's your son doing now, and how excited is he and your family about this opportunity?
He's great. I mean, he's excited to get down here. He's ready to move right now. I mean, for the first time, he get to practice spring ball. You know, he got to see me coach in high school when he was a little kid. So now, that, you know, being able to age to be able to come back to Florida and go through spring ball, that's something he's excited about doing.
Gary on the left.
Hey, Coach, Gary Smith from the Florida Times-Union. By the way, that was a interesting play selection in the fourth quarter in the Gator Bowl. Pat White 10 times in a row. You recall that last drive where you tried to put the game away.
Hey, man, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. You could put the ball in your best player's hand.
And I'm wondering the dynamic of that offense with a quarterback and run like that, Steve Slayton, the fullback, they had known. Are there any principles in that particular kind of offense that Rich ran that you might want to recommend or try to incorporate here?
Well, I think any offense is carryover, you know, from being with Don Nealon as a player to Billy Joe as a player at FAMU to going back and being with Rich for a little while and then on the Bill Stewart and to Doc Holliday, Dana Holgerson, my coaching tree. It's inside zone is inside zone. Just take that play, for example. It's how you teach it. You know, some people teach the play side hip of the guard. Some people teach the inside hip of a center. You know, just a matter of how you want to teach and what's your point of emphasis on that play. So me, Brad, and Nuss and all us getting on the same page on how we want to teach some things. So I think it's all carryover. How you influence in your offense got to fit not just the run but the pass and everything else that goes with that play.
Edgar.
Yeah, Coach, last year the Gators cycled through a lot of options at running back and finally settled on one. What's your philosophy on the amount of touches you like guys getting, and do you like a bell cow?
I mean, you always like a bell cow. But, you know, in this game of football on any level, those guys get beat up. I mean, the key is that bottom guy shouldn't be far off from your first guy if you recruit it well and you coach well. You know, And I believe in that last guy being just as prepared as the first guy. And that's just who I am as a coach. I mean, I don't think you show a weak link in your armor. You know, I take an example. Last year, week 11, I had a freshman that was redshirting. We get our guys hurt, and I had to play in week 11. He go rush for 180 yards. So, you know, I think every system is different. You know, if you're in an I-back team when you can keep that guy on the field a lot, but if you're an up-tempo spread team and you're moving around the backs a lot and you're running swing routes, and guys get tired, so you don't want to lose a beat. You know, I've been fortunate to play a lot of guys, so I think it's a lot of opportunities in this system where you're going to see more than one back, you know, throughout the game.
And recruiting is obviously something you have a great track record there. What's kind of your understanding of your role here as a recruiter?
Well, I think, you know, not just me, but to all the guys on the staff, we're going to go find the best players, you know, no matter what area it's from. You know, if we got a tag team guys or we got a single recruiter guy, I mean, we're going to do the best that we can to find the right fit for us. You know, and like Brad said, you know, so many times we get caught up on stars. And hear me out. I mean, sometimes stars are misleading. You know, guys can be given stars because they go to camp. You can have some kids who are just as good if you get out there and research and work that maybe don't have the meals that those guys have, so they can have the maturity in the body structure. You know, I've been in a place where we didn't get those guys, but we developed those guys, and they go on to be NFL players, just like every coach that we got on the staff. So I think it's all about the right fit. You know, so much of recruiting is about the right fit. You know, one kid may not fit in this system where another kid does. And I think that's the misleading thing about recruiting, why kids don't pan out. Sometimes we get caught up in certain different things that make us go to school, but it ain't the right fit for us.
Thomas on the left.
Thomas Goldcamp at 24/7 Sports. I'm curious, have you had a chance to watch much film or get any impressions of the three backs that you have on the roster?
I mean, I'm watching them now. I mean, we're going through cut-ups. And we talk just about every other day because it's a trust deal. I need them to trust me as well as I trust them. You know, of course, Jordan, I mean, I've been knowing that kid since the 8th grade because he's from an area that I heavily recruit. LaMichael, I was making a funny story with him the other day when I got here, but that I had an email, and it was still in my email from somebody had sent me one of them random email where his name was in it. And then with Mark, same way, I got a email from his school about recruiting him, but we was already done. So you kind of have an ideal about these kids, but until you actually get to coach them and get around them, and I'm a firm believer in forming my own opinion on kids. You know, I watch film. You know, Skipper may did some things different that I may do, but in the day, it's about not affecting those kids and slowing them down and letting them continue to push their development forward.
Landed in the back.
Coach, just what's been your general message just to the running back room since, you know, got to meet with them, you know, get to talk with them?
Well, I think the first thing is trust. You got to trust me and I got to trust you, and that's on the field and off the field. And trust me that as a staff, not me, we're going to put you in the best position possible to be successful. And we talked about some things already as they watching films. If we can press something a little better on this play, it might be the difference between, you know, I told Jordan might be the difference between you having 1,000 yards instead of 800-some yards. You know, just things like that where you come in and they understand what you're saying from the beginning that makes sense to them. In their terms, that's going to allow them to be a better football player. And then, you know, like you said, you know, when you come in and guys, you know, respect you and they trust you, and you can walk in the room, and especially your older guys who already know you, helps make the transition easy for you too.
And obviously they don't arrive until the summer, but just what are your general impressions so far of Darius Lemons and Malik Davis?
Well, those two kids that I had interaction with, you know, on the recruiting trail, so I kind of got a good idea about them. You know, I thought that Darius early in the process he showed a little affection, but I didn't think I had a chance because he committed early. Then the flirtation here, so he decided to pull the trigger. Malik was a kid that I recruited heavy, had a lot of interaction with him. So I think they both tremendous football players. You know, I think they're going to be able to help us. They bring an element to this team that I think they can hit the home run. You know, they're probably a little different structure-wise than some of the guys we got right now, which ain't all bad. You know, because I'm always a firm believer as a coach, and I tell them all the time, I don't want to coach hard for 3 yards. I want that guy that can get the ball and go 80 and make me look like a good coach.
We'll finish up with Zach up front. Graham, can you pass it back?
Yeah, playing off that, when you are recruiting year to year, do you go into every cycle with, I want to get this type of back for this class, or you just go get the best talent that's out there?
Well, I think it starts with the system first. You know what I mean? Because a certain system allows you to be flexible with certain things you do. This system, I want the best player that fit us. You know what I mean? I want a kid who meet the measurables, you know, whatever those measures we set forward. But also, I'm a firm believer I shouldn't have to coach speed. And I think you want kids who can run and who can score, who can make people miss, who can finish runs, you know what I mean, and got great football IQ, who understand not just being a running back but being a complete football player. Because I teach a lot of that with my background being a quarterback, understanding what defenses are doing, how we can attack, and what helps them carry on to being a better football player. So I think all those things are important. But again, I think kids who natural with the football. Some stuff as a running back, I'm just talking about that position, some stuff I don't need to coach. We always tell what running back's supposed to have great vision. If I'm coaching you on vision, then we're going to have a lot of issues with that as a kid. So I think those things are highly important. And the expectation at Florida is to have a great back. I mean, look at the history of this place. Emmett, Eric Redd, Fred Taylor. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, that's the expectation. We got to get the standard to stay at that point. And I think we got some guys in that room that can do it. You know, you look at it, I watched that LSU game, and I told the guys joking around, I said, I knew you guys were going to win that game. I said, that's why I knew you guys were going to win that game. I say, first of all, you don't pick a fight with Florida guys. I mean, you just don't. And I said, I knew that game was going to be won that game. And I joked with them, but the way those guys ran and finished runs that game, that was impressive. I mean, that's as good as you can ask for as a running back coach, to go finish runs and third down in the game situation, punch it in the goal line. I mean, that's what you want. Because I tell them all the time, I say the quarterback and the center touch the ball more than us, but we're going to affect the game probably more than anybody. If it's third and short, it's a great chance we're going to get the ball. If it's a 4-minute offense, we got to run the clock out to finish games. So understand, we got to be in those situations to take over the game and finish games, and that's the expectation in this room.
And then last thing, obviously as a coach here, you got a lot of responsibilities. Obviously you have to develop these guys as young men, coach them and everything that goes into game planning. But you are definitely known as a recruiter, and I know you like to do it. You've already got your GIF game going since you've been here. How much are you looking forward to recruiting now for Florida and with what's been called now an all-star team?
Well, I think, you know, what the Gator logo does for you, it gets you in the door. But it doesn't get any easier. You know, that's the people think, well, because you got a Florida logo, it's not, it get easy for you. No, it doesn't. Because you still recruiting against the Alabamas of the world, the Miamis of the world, the Florida State, the USC. Now you got to work. You know, that's the honeymoon part of it. You know, you in the relationship, now you got to go finish and you got to close it out. You got to put the ring on it. And that's what I equivalated to, man. And you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. You know, you always want to be on the side of winning, but in reality, you know, like anything, like dating a woman, sometimes it don't work the first time. You got to find the right fit, and that's the same thing with recruiting. So get out there and work. And I think the one thing that we got right now with some of the guys I've been around and some of the guys came in with is they do a great job of developing a relationship. You know, they're relentless. And we talk about all the time in recruiting, there's two things they can tell you, yes and no. So don't be afraid to let a kid tell you no, but you got to get in and dance with that kid to find out if you got a chance. And I believe in that, and I believe in being aggressive in everything we do. You know, recruiting and playing and coaching the same way. You got to attack it. It's a win mentality, and win it. You know what I mean? And I look at recruiting the same way I look at coaching. I want to win. You know, I look at that's a game to me. You know, I hate losing, so I'm going to try my best to do whatever I can to win. I mean, relentless, establishing that relationship, not only with that player, but that family, the people that impacting that kid's life. And you know, at the end of the day, let's make him a Gator.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.